You're listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another amazing show lineup for today. Today we have an amazing guest, Paul Zolman, and he has an amazing website that you can check out is roadoflove.com. We're going to have a great time talking to our guest today, how he changed his focus of anger to love. And we're going to learn about his story, about him being an entrepreneur, and how he got to where he is today. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you to the show and say, how you doing, man?
Thank you very much, Maya. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Glad
sir.
to be here.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you on, man. So you have a website, Road of Love. Tell us a little bit about this and what inspired you to set this up.
So the Road of Love has a great backstory. I had done quite a bit of destination dating after my first marriage failed, 23 and a half years and 8 children. My wife decided she was going to go after some younger man. And I had 5 children left in the household, and it was just a very difficult time. So I had to have some sort of release. On the weekends that she had the children, what I decided to do was I'd fly all over and have what I call destination dating. So either the lady lived in a different city and I lived in a different city. We decided on a city that we'd both go to and we'd have a date. So I went to New York City, Cabo San Lucas, Nashville, Kansas City, Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Daytona Beach, Phoenix, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Snowflake, Arizona, several cities all around the nation, and trying to find love after this failed marriage. And it was very difficult to keep up a long-term relationship in that way. So after that was over, I was pretty much done. I did that for about 18 months, spent over $10,000 just going around on this destination dating, and didn't find anything that really suited me, and it didn't suit the other person as well. So it was just something that just didn't work for me. I'm living in Arizona at the time, and my sister lived about 700 miles away from me in Utah, in southern Utah, near the Arizona border in Santa Clara, Utah. And she invited me to contact her neighbor. She's an older sister, and I said, "No, I don't want to do that. I'm done with destination dating. I did it. It doesn't work out." And she's big sister, and she says, "Oh, come on. And you got to do what big sister says." So I decided, okay, well, I'll email her. We'll see if anything happens. The emails from this person were delightful, and we started to develop a relationship. She felt really self-conscious about sending her number over the internet. And so I never did get her phone number for probably 6 or 8 weeks. It was just kind of an interesting, just back and forth of email. And so that was the first part of this dating process. And then finally, I asked for her number. She wouldn't give it to me, but then she had her son call and leave a message on my phone with her phone number, which was just it was funny. Anyway, started calling her, talking to her, just really got to know this person. And I was coming up from Arizona, a 7-hour trip, coming up from Arizona every weekend. I'd leave at 5 o'clock on Friday, arrive on Sunday night at midnight. We'd go for a walk, and then I'd leave at 5 o'clock on Sunday, go back to Phoenix and arrive at midnight on Sunday night, and then just go back to work Monday morning. We did that for probably 6 weeks, and then I decided to go ahead and move up to the St. George, Santa Clara area, and we dated a little bit more. Now we're getting serious, and it's time to take her to Big Brother for Big Brother approval up in Salt Lake City. We get there, and the first thing that happens is that my sister-in-law pulls this lady aside, my sister's neighbor pulls her aside and says, "The only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up is anger. At first I denied it, then it made me mad." And I thought, this is a perfect opportunity to change that perception, if that's the perception that people have. And I thought, it had never occurred to me that we grew up in an angry family. But as I reflected on it, I said, I need to change that. Started reading the color code and the 5 love languages, and settled on the principles of the 5 love languages. By doing that, I decided I wanted to reconcile those 5 love languages to Jesus Christ. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. And did he do those 5 love languages? Well, we know his words. We love his words. So he did the words. Did he serve people? Absolutely, he served people. Did he spend time with people? Absolutely, he did that. Did he touch people? And when after he was resurrected, he had to tell Mary, "Touch me not." So from that, we pretty much know that touch was part of his ministry, because she was ready to give him a hug or do whatever to touch him at that point in time. And then he also had gifts of the Spirit. So all 5 love languages Jesus did. So I thought, if this reconciles to Jesus Christ, I'd like to make that transformation and use those principles. But when I read the 5 love language book, I read it 4 or 5 times. After doing that, I could not spit out, just like I just did, I could not spit out the 5 love languages to a person. It didn't go inside me. It did not change me within to read the book. I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. I'm a bad guesser, so the one of the premises and one of the applications of the book is that if I guess what love language you are, and if I cater to that, we're going to be buddies. But I'm a bad guesser. It's possibly not going to happen. And to me, who am I to say what love is? Because I was raised in an angry environment. But to me, that did not feel like love. To cater to someone, it was almost more of a duty than a voluntary loving, and something that you'd give of your own free will. So that didn't work for me. The second application that Dr. Chapman has in his book is that you take this survey and then you discover what your own primary love language is. Well, you can guess what mine was, because I was raised in an abusive childhood. Physical touch was my primary love language. I thought that was love. I absolutely thought that was love. And it was regular. It was consistent. I mean, it was just one of those things that had the properties of love, but it was kind of a false love. But if I took that survey and I came out, I was gifts. What are you supposed to do with something like that? Would he advertise? He'd say, "Hello, I'm gifts. What do you have for me today?" I mean, it's just awkward, very awkward for me. So that application didn't work. I found that in my childhood, growing up, I liked games. So I thought, what if I made this a game? So I contacted Dr. Gary Chapman and asked them if they would license some of the icons that they have for the 5 love languages. The icons were from 1990s. The book was first published in 1992. And so they're old, and he didn't want to, they weren't, I don't know if they were redoing them or what, but they did not want to license them at that time. So I talked to a copyright attorney, and the copyright attorney told me that theory is not copyrightable. So the theory of the 5 love languages is not copyrightable. Application is. So the application of me making this a game was not on the market at the time. So I created my own icons. I put them on a die. And then there's just 2 instructions. You roll the die every day. That's the love language that you practice all day that day. The next day you roll it might be something different. And you practice that all day that day. All day, Shemaiah. It's not an event. I did the dishes. I'm done. Mm-hmm. It's not an event anymore. It's not a love event. It's a mindset that you do it all day long. If you do that for 30 days, you're going to become what I like to call a love language linguist. Sexy title. You'll want that. You'll want to put it on your resume in case this radio gig doesn't work out for you. Just kidding.
Nah, I understand. But yeah, I like what you're saying. And the game, I think that's a brilliant idea. The fact that it's like you don't know which one is coming, but they're all going to help you, So kind of touch on that, the audience, and how you use that as the approach to where it's like, okay, no one knows what's going to land on today, but whatever it lands on, that's what we are using.
That's right, and that's, you bring up a really good point, that there's some mystique to it. It keeps you interested in it, because what am I going to do today? Until you roll the die, you roll it in the morning, and then at the end of the day, I also created a journal with it that you could record what you rolled that day, the opportunities to love that you saw that day, and then what you did about those opportunities. I would have died to have a journal of love like that from my mother or my grandmother, a legacy of love that they passed down. But their journals mostly consisted of, well, it was rainy today. The weather, they talked about the weather, and then they talked about food. My mother would write that I went to the neighbors, we had lasagna next door, and it was good. I mean, food was the big deal. And she talked about food and the weather, but who really cares at this point in time? Who really cares? I would have much rather have had a journal chronicalizing her journeys through life of opportunities that she saw in her own lives, in her own day and age, opportunities to love. What was available for her to love? What were the opportunities in that day? And then what did she do about those opportunities? I think in our day and age, we have a lot of opportunities to love, and to record those opportunities and then record what we did about them is a great idea. Second thing about this moving, the transition, is that I learned that through rolling the die, that love is really directional. Giving it away is the only thing you have control over. I can't tell you, Shemaiah, to love me, or I can't tell anyone to love me, because that's almost like a request and a request that turns into duty. And then, or if I tell you, Shemaiah, what my love language is and how I want to be loved, and then you don't do it, what's that turn into? It's kind of a pity party. And I'm sure that was unintended by Dr. Chapman, that to create a pity party. So the best thing to do and the best transformation for a person is to choose to love, regardless of any outcome. To give love away, regardless, and not have any expectations of it coming back your way. Now, we all know the law of the harvest, that what you plant, you'll reap, and then you'll reap again, and because that'll develop seeds, and then you'll reap again and again and again. That's the law of the harvest. Just send it out. Send it out, and don't worry about it coming back. Don't worry about it. It will come back, but you got to send it out. Some people just sit and say, well, I told everybody what my love language is. I'm just going to sit here and wait till it comes. It's ridiculous. Be active in sending that out, and then while doing that, after a 30-day period of doing Roll of Love Die, I found that my eyes were opened, that I could see all the different love languages when it came my way, even if it wasn't my primary love language, as Dr. Gary Chapman talks about, even if it was not that primary love language, what I liked most of all, I could see that they're trying to love on me, and then I could respond appropriately.
Once again, listen to Irie Focus Radio, talking to our guest today, Paul Zolman, and you can go to his website, rolloflove.com. And yeah, I think that's a very interesting concept, and I like the fact that, if you roll the dice, like first thing in the morning, it kind of sets the tone for the day. So kind of touch on that a little bit more with the audience, how this whole concept of, starting this off for the day, it kind of allows you to have a roadmap on how you will experience your day.
Shemaiah, I had a mayor of a neighboring city here she was on her campaign to become mayor of the city, and she had received a dice, and the dice that she decided very, very quickly on that she was going to do it, roll it every day. And after doing it for a year, she kind of expresses that it's almost like a divining tool. It's gonna tell you how your day is gonna be in a loving way. And it gives you a mindset of watching for those opportunities to love. When I say watching for opportunities to love, I'm saying what's right with that person? What can you accept about that person? What is good about that person? You're never with the mindset when you're looking for opportunities to love, you never have the mindset to say, what's wrong with that person? Or why can't that person do that right? And there is no criticism. There is no judgment. You're always thinking, what's right about that person? How can I love that person in the genre, in the way that I rolled the die that day? And I think that if we started this and did it daily with kids at school, it takes 2 seconds to roll the die. So in elementary school, it might be prudent to have the girls have a die, and then the boys have their own die, and then they roll as a group. They roll the die, and then at the end of the day, most schools that I know of and most classrooms that I know of, at the very end of the day, the last 10 or 15 minutes is really highly unproductive time. If at those 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the day, they took a page out of the journal, wrote a little report. This is what we rolled today. This is the opportunities to love in the school day that I saw to love that way. And this is what I did about it. Have the kids start with a new mindset. What can I love about that person? What is there about love that I can express today in appropriate ways? If we develop that mindset in the kids, wouldn't the whole system would write itself all by itself?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned earlier that you say you were a person of faith, because Bible talks about the power of life or death is in the tongue, and I feel like that can also be part of the equation. We set the tone for the day of how we want to focus on whatever we focus on. It can be life or death. It can be love or hate. It can be good or bad. So with your experience, being able to use this tool as a reminder, because that's kind of what it comes across to me, is like it's a tool. You roll the dice every day as a reminder. Okay, this is a reminder of what I can do versus what I refuse to do.
That's exactly right. I'm glad you brought that up too, because it took me for the change to happen, for the transformation for me to happen from being raised in abuse, trained, so to speak, to be an abuser. I was trained by my father and mother to be an abuser. How do you get out of that? I realized that where I was on that spectrum that you just talked about, good and evil, right and wrong, dark and light, I found for anger on one side, and what was the opposite of anger? I had to determine and realize that the whole spectrum, what's the other end of that spectrum? What's the other end? And which way do I want to go? Do I want to go toward anger and be more angry? Or do I want to go toward love and be more loving? I ran as fast as I could away from anger. As soon as my sister-in-law recognized that, I started really studying, trying to figure out, how can I get more loving? What is love? How do you do it? And that's when I started realizing the direction of love. I can only give it away. I can't have it come my way unless I give it away. You got to do it. It's an active. It's not passive. You got to just send it out.
One thing that comes to mind as a metaphor is like when you're playing catch with someone. In order for them to catch the ball, you have to first throw it. In order for you to catch the ball, they too in return have to throw it. And I think that's a similar concept with this. In order to receive love, you have to give love. And even if you don't receive love, doesn't mean you stop giving love.
That's right.
It just means it's who you are. And I think that's part of the point too, is understand, who do you really want to be? Like, do you want to be the person that loves no matter what? Or do you want to be the person that only searches for a reason to be angry, a reason to be upset all the time? And people will perceive you a certain way just by how you treat other people. And it's a constant decision that we have to make daily. No one's going to be perfectly a lovable person, but it's a decision at the very least that we have to make daily.
Yeah. I love what you just said about that, Shemaiah, because I in that mean childhood, I was had some mean moments, and I would take a magnifying glass like this, take a magnifying glass and go out in the sun, and I'd burn ants. And I thought, that's really a kind of a laser focus on that ant, and it brings the sun into focus. But the same thing happens with the magnifying glass for the good of a person versus the bad of a person. What's it do? It actually makes it larger so that you can read it, or like for a newspaper, you can read it, or it brings it into focus, like the sun for burning the ant. When you magnify the good that people have, that they eat it up, and that's gonna grow. You want that to grow. Or I don't know anybody that wants, if a child does something bad, I don't know anybody that wants them to go ahead and continue to do that. You'll get better at doing things bad. Who wants that?
Right.
And everybody has bad. You nailed it, Shemaiah. Everybody has bad, but everybody has good. If you focus and magnify that good in people, that's what you want to grow. That's the whole thing about this. And the thing about doing the preparation, like you said about the analogy of playing catch, the preparation of rolling the die and doing it for 30 days, just giving love away every day for 30 days, gives you that eyes. It's the preparation that you need to know what it looks like, what it feels like to give that particular genre or that style of love away. When you know how to do that, then you've prepared yourself for when it comes your way. So when the ball comes to you, you can catch it. You can catch it, say, they're loving on me, I'm going to love them back, and just play with it. Another thing that we haven't talked a little bit about is, so Dr. Chapman has a way to discover what your own personal love language is. I didn't think that was very helpful. I think it's very helpful to be able to recognize what other people's love language is, and then just make a mental note and send it that way. And so the way I've done this, as I've rolled the die and I'm in that groove for that day, if I find a person that I'm trying to exercise that type of love upon on that day, and they light up, that's what they like. Just take a mental note. If they light up, that's what they like. Their eyes will brighten, they'll stand a little straighter. That's what lighting up is. And just light the world.
It's funny you said that, because not just light the world, but I almost think in a way as well, like you lighten the burden. It's like you take the weight off of their shoulders, because you never know what someone could be going through. It could be some heaviness of whatever the personal situation is. That one spark could literally lighten the load of that person for that week or just for that day.
Absolutely. The fire of love that burns within is a healing fire. It heals. When we send it out, we're trying to uplift people. No, there's no more tearing people down. There's no more sarcastic barbs that we're sending out to cut them down, take their knees out from under them. Nothing like that. You're trying to lift them up. And by doing that, you're lifting yourself up inadvertently. It's a byproduct. It's not something that you're really trying to do. It happens. It just happens. When you lift others up, you're lifted up too.
It's a lot of pretty awesome thoughts going through my head right now, but it's like also the cost of love is nothing, but the cost of hate is too much.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the destruction, everything. Yeah. I just can't imagine. That's interesting you bring the cost up, because the cost of this dye is less than $10. Less than $10. It will change your life. Who doesn't have $10 that they would risk, so to speak, to change their own life? Just keep track of what you've done. Keep track of it and do it every day. It's like waking up every day. Do it every day when you wake up. Get it on track for the day. How will I love that day? And have fun. It's so much fun. And it's fulfilling. It brings happiness to you that you would never have otherwise. You would never have it. Is there any happiness in yelling at a driver that pulls in front of you and puts his brakes on, and then you've got to put your brakes on, and it just messes things up? Or someone that cuts you off? Is there any happiness in yelling at that person?
Nah.
Not
I mean, we think is for one moment we think it's going to be fulfilling, but it doesn't make anything better. And I think that's another question we have to ask ourselves in any situation. Will this decision I'm about to make it worse or make it better? And we don't always get to, pause and think. But I think if we were intentional about how we live, that's the most important thing that you can do, is be intentional on how you live. Because if you make that decision, okay, this is not going to work if I continue to do this, how you treat a person or whatever. But if I change that and I first recognize it, self-awareness, and recognize that I could be causing the issue, now you can fix it by just changing what you do. And rolling that dice allows you to be reminded that, okay, there's better ways of doing things. And the more you are aware of that, I think the more you practice it.
Well, and the more you practice it, the more you become aware. That's right. It's just that circular motion there. And I think it's a really important that's really important points that you're making about that. I really like your feedback there.
And those who go to your website, you have a website, rolloflove.com. You have a button that says buy now, and you have some things that people can purchase. Kind of share with us the book. I believe you have a journal, and you also have the Roll of Love die that people can go ahead and get for themselves or a loved one.
Yeah, Roll of Love. And just for the spelling's sake, I'm pretty sure that I've purchased both domains, ROLL of love.com and ROLE. The book and the true way I want people to feel this is ROLE, because if you think about just the two words, ROLL is outside of you. You're not trying to change anything outside of you. You're trying to change you inside. You're trying to have, it's a transformation of you. Love transforms all by itself. It'll transform you. Just do it. So it's ROLE, Roll of Love, and that's rolloflove.com. And there's a Roll of Love book that's about experiences that I had in putting together the whole Roll of Love die, and it's just the backstory of that. The Roll of Love journal, on the other hand, has journal pages within. It has the date. It has what you rolled that day. It has the opportunities, lines to write, the opportunities that you saw to love in that way that day. And then it has lines to say, this is what I did about those opportunities. Who would love a journal from their grandmother or great grandmother or their mother or father about how they loved that day? I mean, that would be a priceless treasure that you'd want to pass around to all your siblings and to all your children and all the grandchildren. You'd want people to know, where did I get this loving attitude? And you'd be able to trace it to a journal, a loving journal. It's not a journal of willy-nilly, what may, the things that happen during the day, the things that may not be as interesting as how did I love that particular day. It's truly a love journal and a love, something that's going to be a legacy of love for that family forever. And then the die itself just has 5 love languages on it, 6 sides on the dice, but 5 love languages. The 6th side has a little hand with a question mark on it. That one is a surprise me. So on that day, when you roll that one, you're watching for any of the love language opportunities to express love appropriately, obviously.
Yeah, I think this would be a good activity for people in any relationship, whether it's work, professional, personal, family, spouse. I think this is a good tool. You even mentioned education, schools. I think it's a good idea to whoever's listening to this to really check out your website, rolloflove.com, and really give this a shot, because you don't hear about tools about how to love. You hear tools about how to make money and how to do this and how to do that, but we don't really get into that, how to love. It's almost like taboo, like, oh, don't talk about that. You're a tree hugger, or you're a special person when you get into that space. But it's probably the most fundamental part of our experience in this life. And I think your work is commendable, and hope people will learn more about this and explore your website.
Thank you very much, Shemaiah. You're a great host, and I appreciate your invitation to be here today. And I think that your point is well taken. It's not part-time love. It's not just to your significant other, which you're not with that person all day long. You're developing a mindset that you're loving everyone, and you're developing your love skills to do it to everyone. And you're becoming a loving person by doing it to everyone, doing love all day long. It's a great mindset.
Man, I just had a visual, because I'm a very visual person. I just imagine like an individual walking around, this world with either the mindset, I'm going to light people with my flame, or I'm going to put other people's flames out. And I think that's the only two we can actually do. We can either light other people's flame and encourage them, inspire them, motivate them, forgive them, whatever it may be, or we can put people's flames out. And that will be more damage versus doing the opposite.
I love that visual. And probably about 6 months ago, I had a brainstorming session with an additional author of many other books, and she and I were going back and forth of what do we call people that kind of follow this role of love system. And just like you said, we're love starters, like a fire starter. We're love starters. Start that love. Start it today.
Once again, true honor having our guest on today, Paul Zolman. You can go to his website, rolloflove.com, and make sure you check out the products he has. It's real simple on the homepage. Click the Buy Now button. It will take you to the different products he has. Definitely support this and continue to spread that love out there, because, man, this world definitely needs that right now.
Amen to that, Shemaiah. Thank you very much.